Hello, dear friends. This is Cardiac Radio at 11 p.m., and we are here together to study more spiritist literature that nourishes our souls. And it's a joy to be with you. Welcome, welcome. We have a teamwork effort going on, as you know, and we have more friends who will be joining us in the upcoming studies. Yes, this book is so rich. Evolution into Worlds was written in 1958 through two mediums, Chico Xavier and Valdo Vieira. They were in different cities, and in 6 months, this book was compiled. Fascinating, unique in mediumistic phenomenon, but more unique in the teachings. This book is so complete and comprehensive that, in spite of its objectivity, there is much to be broken down. Our studies here at 11 p.m. at Cardiac Radio mean to open ourselves to studies. And we are not final in our conclusions, but we welcome you to join us in the single opportunity of learning more about Spiritism. Spiritism, as you know, is a science that has moral consequences. Our object of study is the spirit, okay? And we study the origin, the destiny, the nature of spirits, and the interactions of them with the corporeal world. These are Kardec's words in the very foundational books. And André Luiz, it's important for us to see how André Luiz is in great synchronicity with the foundation. In any science, we need to verify what remains solidly connected to the foundation and just expanding more and more and more. André Luiz is in great synchronicity. Kardec is always up to date. It's never going to be outdated because it talks about things that are beyond the physical, the perishable. It's about immortality. And that's why in this book, our dear friend André Luiz invites us, as he said in the preface, let us study our multi-millenary pilgrimage that may ignite the fire of our hope as we keep on ascending towards God. You and I, let's ignite the fire of our hope, okay? And understand more about ourselves and practice more of this good news, beautiful thoughts, beautiful feelings, beautiful words, beautiful actions. Shall we? Are you ready? Ready for today? Yes, today we are entering the second part of the Evolution into Worlds book. Yesterday, our friend Shane Martin opened chapter 1 talking about the nourishment for discarnates. And just an observation for us, huh? Why is André Luiz, since he's talking about evolution into worlds, he's talking about the discarnates in the second part of the book? Because he's talking about the spiritual body. He's teaching you and I about immortal nourishment. He's talking about things that do not perish, okay? That are beyond being incarnate, discarnated, etc. So that's one of the reasons why in the second part he's going to teach a lot about the afterlife because it's actually us. The real life is the spirit life. Doesn't mean that the physical is not real. It just means that the physical is temporary. Okay? Like going to school. If I go to school thinking that I'm always going to go to school, I'm going to be surprised to one day people saying, this is it. Now you have to work. And we're going to say, oh, well, but I want to stay studying for the rest of my life. You can, as long as you work. So that's the same for life, real life. We do internships after internships after internships after internships. The real deal is one day, no more internships. Yeah, pure spirits, they do not need to incarnate anymore. They may out of missions, but they don't. What do? Well, that's another part of the story that Kardec will tell us in the Spirit's book mainly. But for today, we're going to learn about the language of the discarnate spirits. How do they communicate? Do you know? This is chapter 2 of part 2 of Evolution into Worlds. Okay? I know Sunshine has a question here about the study yesterday. Sunshine, I will look into this and ask Shane to reply to you because the terminology that she may have used, she may be able to give it back to you. If not, tomorrow I'll be able to give it back to you as I get my hands on it with her as well, okay? But I'm sure she'll be able to address this as she explained to everybody. I know this book deserves a whole lot more hours. We don't have many hours. This is just a teaser. So we can keep studying, expanding. And I tell you this book, we started the study actually in July 2010 in the Spiritual Society of Baltimore and then in the Spiritual Society of Virginia. 8 years later, I'm revisiting the teachings, the slides, the studies, and it's different in so many ways. Thank you, Sunshine, for asking this question. We won't forget, okay? But let us just begin today. Chapter 2, Part 2. Let me share the slides with you, which will make it all the more easier, shall we? Here we are. Language of the discarnate spirits. What does André Luiz has to say about it? He asks a question indeed. His question is, how is the language of the spirits characterized? So he's saying, how do we actually communicate, right? He first begins by saying, undoubtedly, the language of the spirit is above all else the image that externalizes from him. So you and I basically, we exchange ideas through images. Kardec talks about it, but all the more, we have to say, science has already proved it to us. We think in images. That's why we talk about communication as an encoding and decoding system. Okay? I'll give you an example. If I tell the word book to you, book, what does come to you? Do you think you're thinking of the same book that I'm thinking? Which book are you thinking about? The Spirit's book? Any book? What is the color of the book here? It's coming to your mind. So science says that encoding is one step. Okay? And then once I bring the information in, I need to go on the other side of the story, decode it, and bring out what I say. That's why communication is not simple, because each person has a different set of images that they may be using. Okay? We can only recognize what we already know. So even neuroscience has proved to us that our problem begins in the encoding process, not on the decoding. It's about understanding what's coming from whatever we're exchanging. Okay? Let me give you more. So keep in mind, we communicate based on images. Okay? So you need to know what it is for you. Do you think, Teresa Castro is asking, do we think in images because it's more primitive communication before language existed? Oh, yes, yes, yes. because everything is in the thought first. Everything is in the thought first. Okay? So that's why we think in images. It's about vibrations. And as Kardec says in the book Genesis, as we think and feel, he says, our thoughts and feelings are like hands manipulating the universal cosmic fluid. So the universal cosmic fluid, which is the divine plasma, it's like clay or Play-Doh. I give you clay, God gives us clay, and then we create with our thoughts. And then Kardec says, we create thought forms. André Luiz here is giving it a similar name, a synonym. Thought forms equals images, right? Images. Thought forms equals images. And remember the chapter on the aura? It stays around us like a living screen. People can see it when we go to mediumistic meetings. The spirits that are communicating through us, we can see exactly what they are thinking and feeling, as if we were watching a movie. We can get close to people and get true scenes about what they're thinking and feeling. Okay? Does that clarify, Teresa? Let me know. Then André Luiz continues. He says to us, this also occurs in the physical plane, in which someone who knows how to reflect, meaning to think and emit, needs few words to define the breadth of his plans and feelings, summarizing them into his synthesis of time and influence. So basically he's saying that's the way we all communicate. Okay? Thank you, Teresa. Thank you. So in the second paragraph, André Luiz is saying to us that we communicate just alike as incarnate spirits too. So that's important for us. Pause. Knowing of it is not going to change our life, but feeling it, it will. So what is the implication of this? Let me ask you this question. What is the implication of this teaching? Shall we, friends? If we think in images, I need to identify which images I'm producing. In the book Living Spring, I was reading a message with a friend the other day. Book Living Spring. And there is let me see if I get on my phone here. It's I forgot the chapter number, but I'll give it to you because it's very, very important and it's matching precisely what we're talking about here. It's a chapter that talks about small alms. Okay, let me get the chapter here for you so we can be on the same page. Okay, come on, books. Here, yay, yay, yay. Okay, so let me get here. Alms. It's striking what Emmanuel says. He says, chapter 60 of the book Living Spring. He says, give what you have to the poor. And people think that it's about money. And then at some point in the chapter, Emmanuel says, let us not neglect the alms of our inner world. So he's talking about our inner world. And let us ask ourselves, these are Emmanuel's questions, okay? And he's saying, what do we have of ourselves to give? What kind of emotion are we communicating to others? Oh, pause. How do I communicate emotions? Huh? Vibrations, right? What reactions are we provoking in our neighbors? How do I do this? Hmm? What are we giving to our brothers and sisters of our daily struggle? What is the stockpile of our feelings? What kind of vibrations are we emitting? Mamma Mia, Emmanuel, Andrea Luiz, Kardec, they're all in the same mindset. So Andrea Luiz and Emmanuel are telling us we communicate vibrations, forming thought forms, images, and we need to refine what we're creating. So, what is the stockpile of our feelings? If I spend my whole day feeling inadequate, feeling I'm not loved enough, feeling that I'm not good enough, what am I communicating to people? Those sad feelings. It's going to be hard to be around. That's majority of people on earth. That's why we need to defend ourselves very often and or to isolate ourselves or be aggressive because we are projecting onto others what we're feeling. So what do we need to do? You know, when you start feeling awkward, say, I can choose my feelings and my thoughts. That can be so empowering and realistic. I say, okay, maybe what I'm feeling now is not that good, but I can choose. Okay, I open a message, read a sentence, and it says, be hopeful, emit goodness. Then I close my eyes and I say, I believe in the good. I believe in God. I know I'm a child of God. And I'll give you an analogy. Look at a seed, okay? The seed of a tree. And look at the tree, mature tree. You look at the seed. Are you going to be upset with the seed because the seed is not the tree yet? No, Vanessa, that's crazy. But that's what many people do. They look at themselves like when we're looking at a seed and, how come you're not a tree yet? Or look at a bouquet of flowers and usually you're going to find those that are already bloomed and others that are still to be bloomed. Are you going to be enraged with those that are yet to bloom? No, that's crazy. That's what people do. And that's what you may do or I may do. I no longer do it. Say, how come? How come I'm not blooming yet? I am stupid. Please don't say that. Because nature is nature and you're nature. So I look at me and say, I am a bloom to be flower. I am a blossoming and fruitful tree to be. Exactly. That's my destiny. But I cannot be upset with myself. I need to be kind and gentle. And then, potentially, I will spread that out to others. Patience, kindness, compassion, understanding. Okay? So, what am I emitting? Okay, Andrea Luiz has more to tell us. Let's go back to Andrea Luiz and see what he says. Now he's talking about the communication from higher spirits. He says, there are spiritual circles of great sublimation in which the discarnate spirits, sustaining with their higher inner wealth of resources, culture, and moral grandeur, can shape with their own ideas vivid pictures that confirm their message of teaching. They can do it either in silence or by using minimal verbal supply, building liberated mental circuits of art and beauty. That's why Emmanuel says, visualize the good. Visualize the good. I'm going to go back to this paragraph so we can break it down together. The good spirits will achieve this. They achieve this by doing what we are doing nowadays. Learning to visualize the good. As Mentor Joseph said recently, he said, Vanessa, don't worry about the status of the world now. Help the higher spirits by visualizing the inevitable progress of humanity. And then he says, visualize the day in our schools. Instead of only teaching our children and teenagers to write, they are going to learn to write the good, for the good, and solely the good. The day they sing and they compose a song, they're going to do it for the good, to the good, and solely the good. The day people gather together in business organizations, they are going to make plans aiming the general good and only the general good. Because what's good for all is good for the individual. That's the goal. When we bring the Christ consciousness to all organizations in the world, not necessarily with the stamp Christian, but Christianizing, bringing the consciousness of the on high from Christ Jesus to every single relationship and organization. The higher spirits are already there. So without words and with little words, they can create living images, sending messages, teaching, sustaining. Excuse me. Look at the book. Look at the book. The books by Luiz. You're going to see how often higher spirits, they pick up on each other's thoughts and they create landscapes by using their minds. So if you know that this is your destiny, what are you going to invest on? Some people sometimes ask, Vanessa, I have free time now. What should I do? Invest on immortal abilities. Because if you do, you're going to invest for many lives and immortality. So if you invest on a course, on mental management, right? Like he's saying here, learning to do visualizations, learning to expand your mindfulness, your emotional management, etc. You're going to invest for immortality. Because that's your destiny. When we say higher spirits, that's your destiny, my destiny. It's about us in the future. In this slide, Luiz is telling us about our destiny. So we can practice by doing visualizations daily. Visualize the good. But Vanessa, I'm afraid the good's not going to happen. So you don't believe in God. No, I do. No, you don't. Because if you think that the good is not going to prevail, you don't believe in God. Because God is the power of the universe, the only power. And only good comes from God. So good is all there is. It's an expanding force, but we're part of it. We need to partake, synchronize, calibrate ourselves daily at each hour of our days. So that's an exercise for us. Okay? And then he continues by telling us. Now, he compares communication from lower spirits. Also, unhappy intelligences who are trained in the science of reflection can form afflicting mental screens enclosed and obsessive circuits over the minds that they manipulate. What is Andrea Luiz talking about? I think this is one of the most striking phrases in this teaching, in this chapter, and very, very life-changing. Why? Let's break it down together, shall we? Pay attention to this. If you're browsing through something else on Facebook, if you're doing, pay attention to what Andrea Luiz is saying, please, because this can change our lives. Spirits that are not happy, okay? They have nothing else to do. What do? Bother people's lives. Exactly. They have nothing else but to browse through people's lives. And there are many who train themselves to hypnotize others. When he says the science of reflection, he's talking about thinking, emitting, okay? Hypnotism. In the book Action and Reaction, André Luiz unveils to us the School of Avengers, as escolas dos Vingadores em português, the School of Avengers. Book Action and Reaction. I'm going to write it down here on the screen, okay? So you can keep that in mind. Another book too that is already translated. Action and Reaction by André Luiz through Chico Xavier. Let's keep that in mind. In that book, we learn about the School of Avengers. Yes, they are organized, so organized they know precisely who you are, who I am, and how to bother us, how to create problems. And how do they do this? Well, André Luiz, thank God, is able to tell us precisely how it works. And he says, they create, okay? They know how to create mental images in certain intensity and frequency that will be brainwashing the person. In the book Sex and Destiny by André Luiz, we have the case of Marina. Marina is having an affair with two men simultaneously. And at one point, a spirit that is upset with her comes and starts whispering, "You are worth nothing. You are da-da-dee." And I'm not going to repeat because these words are not good. Bididi, da-da-da, da-da-da, bad things. She's guilty plus the mental charge. Boom! She starts beating herself up, biting. She's taken to a psychiatric hospital. So let's mark it down. Let's take care of our emotions, as Emmanuel said in the book Living Spring. Let's observe what we're thinking, because we're communicating with our words, and we're opening our mental field, law of the mental field. In the next book we'll study mechanisms of mediumship. by Andre Luiz. He talks about law of the mental field. You think, you connect, and you receive. So we need to write it down and ask ourselves, oh my gosh, if I keep thinking this, I'm going to attract. What kind of spirits? What kind of people? Oh no, let me think better. Let me emit hope. That's why Jesus brought the good news. The good news tells us, joy, come on. Hope, I know things are not in place yet, but they will. Because we are accountable to put things in their places. We're not here to wait for the perfect marriage, for the perfect job, for the perfect child parent relationship. Oh my gosh, everything's such a mess. For the perfect health, we are here to learn to build it. We're co-creators. So it's part of us. So my question now to all of us, as I pass it on to you from Mentor Joseph, is, if the lower spirits are trained about the mental power, why don't you train yourself as well? But for the good. Hmm? Why don't you train yourself as well? But for the good. Right? And be careful. Any thought of guilt, remorse, inadequacy, go to yourself and say, I am a child of God. We keep singing this song because it's the foundation of it all. I am a child of God. I cannot put myself down, and I should not put anybody down. Trust in yourself as you bet and invest on the divine in others. We are seeds of God that will sprout, grow, reproduce, flourish, give fruits, and help for immortality. There's no end. So the sooner we learn it, the better it is. Right? Do you agree? Ready for the next? Because Andre Luiz has more for us. He says, according to the same principle, discarnate spirits in many cases control the mediumistic personality that attunes with them. They operate their images on the mediums while in trance, compelling them to dispatch their concepts. According to the same principle, which principle? That incarnates of higher and lower order use, it serves the same principle when we're mediums. We're going to create affinity, and Kardec talks about it, right? About affinity. We're going to connect, attune, and exchange in images. And he continues by talking a little more to understand that communication in mediumship. He says to us, in such circumstances, the message is expressed through the medium system of reflection, although the medium cerebral cortex is anesthetized by the communicating spirit's magnetic action. In spite of it all, the medium receives the ideograms and transmits them in with his own words. What is he saying? What is he saying? Okay. So he's telling us the spirit is going to think images, connects with the medium, perispirit to perispirit. Remember, mental body exchanging images. Then the cortex, okay, that is all about discernment and awareness, consciousness. is going to be anesthetized, as he says. That's why we talk about um, altered state of mind. Trances, mediumistic trances are altered state of consciousness. Okay? So anesthetized. And then the communicating spirits emits, but the spirit, the mind captures, and depending on the set of ideas, that's why he talks ideograms. It's about symbols in images. Ideogram is like symbols in images. And then, for example, I say book. The spirit says book, image, book. And then I will translate in the way I understand book. Okay? But it's going to be in my own set of images that I have. That's why we have some mismatches sometimes. The spirit means something and we need to revise. So that's a pause for us in terms of mediumship. Did you know that Kardec had mediums bringing the information and then he would revise them himself and give it back to the medium so the spirits could revise it? Chico Xavier used to do the same. He would psychograph the books, type it in, Emmanuel would come, revise it, and then he would liberate for release for publishing. Why? Because the encoding and decoding from one mind to the next sometimes needs double checking. What kind of, again, the example we gave at the beginning. I think book, but I'm thinking Living Spring book, but I just said book. But in my mind, I'm thinking this book. And you think, oh yeah, I know book. And you think Spirit's book. They're not the same. You see? I have the Living Spring in my mind, though I say book. And you have the Spirit's book in your mind, though you understand book. It's not the same. So then you revise. Vanessa, did you mean book like the Spirit's book? And I say, no, I meant book like Living Spring. Until one day we're going to be high enough to really have this really same page type of exchange. Okay? So our dear souls is us. That's why we have to pray every day. Exactly. Pray and coach yourself to beautiful thoughts, beautiful feelings all the time. Ask yourself, oh, beautiful thought, Vanessa. I'm gonna drive. And I say, wow, I am a co-creator. I'm going to visualize that as I pass by things as if I am in a Disney movie, even if I don't say anything. I'm visualizing that a shower of pixie dust making people joyful and loved is happening. You're free to think whatever you like. Why not visualizing these wonderful things? The more you practice, the merrier it is. Did you know you're free to think? You're free to choose what you think and what you feel at any given moment. That is super empowering, and the consequences of it are phenomenal. You are free to create with God at each and every second. Right, Barbara? This is move exactly. For example, Barbara, you are in a business meeting. Hmm? I remember Mentor Joseph teaching me that because I used to be a little bothered or bored. I'm sorry to say that I was, but I confess I was because I said, oh my gosh, we could cut this meeting short by an hour. And he said, Vanessa, we need your help. Can you please pay attention? Think beautiful thoughts so we can at least have an opportunity of, using you to help others. Oh my gosh, okay. So then I kept looking at people and visualizing their guardian angels. And then Mentor Joseph said, you are free to think even if it's in Disney style. And I used to think about, the pixie dust or whatever they use in these movies to create, inspire people, visualizing the people and say, I hope that this meeting, everybody feels their guardian angels and visualize it. You're free to think. Right, Silvio Tero? And then Rihanna says, until we have the same image, thoughts and feelings, that will be so much easier. Exactly. So we need to practice until our ideograms are matching. My book, your book, my book. Until then, we practice visualizing the good, as Emmanuel says in the book Thought and Life. Right? More? Oh, yes, we want more. And Emmanuel has more. He's going to share one more. However, despite acknowledging that image is at the foundation of all exchanges between incarnates or discarnates, we are forced to observe that articulate language still has fundamental importance in the so-called space of the nation, where the individuals will be immediately transferred after the detachment of the physical body. What does that mean? What is André Luiz telling us? Many things. One of them, what is he saying? This articulate language that I'm using right now, verbal, okay, that uses, and the language that uses the clothing of particular nations, English, Spanish, Chinese, Portuguese, French, right? Russian, that's what he means. Still is essential. Of the 28 billion spirits connected to the earth, 7 incarnated, 21, sorry, 7 incarnated, 14 discarnated. We, majority of us, 2/3, need articulate language to communicate, whether incarnated or discarnated. You know what I mean? We mean, if we want to help the majority of people in the United States, you better speak English. Doing meetings and thinking the vibrations alone will suffice not true. So, unfortunately, we have to break the news. If you have a spiritist center and you keep doing your meetings in another language that is not essentially the majority of your country, you're limiting the action of your service in both realms. In both realms. Because the discarnates who are in great need, they do not understand. Even in mediumistic meetings. Okay? So, like in a recent mediumistic meeting in our Spiritist Center in the Spirit Side of Virginia, they were saying, few are the Spiritist centers in the United States that offer mediumistic meetings in the English language. So, the few that exist and do that, they are held, they have great impact because they can bring more and more spirits because they still need that language, that articulate language. But if you do it in another language that many of the spirits won't be rescued, it's going to be limited. You're not doing any harm, but you could do more good, and you could do in the language the majority understands. Think about it. That is very transformative. And I would say that is charity. I think there is a moment in time that we really need to change everything. We are ready. We are almost at the end of the second decade of the 21st century, and yet we haven't moved decisively as a movement towards it. I think there is a moment when we say enough is enough. Okay? So Rudy's saying yes. Yes, thank you, Rudy. Big hug to you. Sunshine is saying, I believe we owe it to both incarnates as well as the discarnate to speak in English. Exactly. And that's charity, right, Sunshine? And Rihanna is saying, same in South America. English is still the, South Africa, right? Is the main language that most people communicate and learn in. Exactly. So, friends, if you're a spiritist and you wanna be charitable wherever you are in the world, do the meetings in the language of your country because you're going to be helping many more and the spirits are going to count on you. Count on you. Okay? They do broadcasting also in the spiritual realm. And if you speak in the language of the country, they do not need to work in translations. They can count directly on the magnetism of incarnates that reach many more discarnates who are in need than you can imagine. Okay, so that's the take home message of this final part of this chapter, that in spite of the fact that we communicate in images, we still need articulate language. So if that is true, come on, you can do it. I believe you can do it. And people say, but Vanessa, is that radical? No, friend. I believe in your capability. I believe in the capability of anyone. If Jesus put you in some other place where another language is in need of being spoken, Jesus believes in you. So trust in Jesus and do your part, right? Exactly so. You didn't know about it. But you see, Andre Luiz explains here. He explains it. It's clear cut. And we have another confirmation in the book Among Brothers of Other Lands, where there's another message that repeats the same teaching, that we need to speak the language of the country in spite of the fact that spirits communicate through image. Okay? Barbara is saying, I'm very grateful too. Grateful to everyone that helps to spread spiritism in English. Help me to help my husband. You see, Barbara, thank God. So, friends, today this is the message, okay? This is the message of André Luiz. Can you believe this is it? The second part of the book clarifies questions that we have. So, what is your homework? So we can feel the scripture. As Emmanuel says in the book Living Spring, chapter 60. What kinds of emotions and thoughts are you emanating to people, communicating to people? Huh? One decision changes it all. Decide today. It's all about frequency, attunement. You connect your in. So you say, I want to emanate joy. Joy it is. We're approaching Christmas and we want to connect to joy, emanate joy. Okay? Joy to the world, the Lord has come. Friends, rejoice because your co-creator let us communicate the good so we can feel the good. Good job, Saul. Big hug to you and all of you friends. Dear Daisy Gallen as well. A big hug, friends. And until tomorrow, as far as I know, our dear Marco Magalhães. He is in Canada, Toronto. He's a professor at University in Toronto, and he's a scientist. He's going to be joining us to teach us about the third chapter of the second part of the book Evolution into Worlds, which talks about volitation, in the spiritual body. Big hug, sunshine. Big hug to all of you. And don't forget, tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, our dear Sunshine is leading sessions of studying Spiritism 101. Okay? Big hug. Thank you, God. Thank you, friends. And until Tuesday.